That's been the sweep of history, that every time a new technology comes along, people say, uh-oh, that's the end.
Are we creating new digital species with AI?
And the answer is yes. Well, when you take a look at the threats to society, nuclear weapons, of course, are at the top of the list. Designer germs are at the top of the list, but also potentially robots. Now, robots today have the collective intelligence of a creative monkey, or worse, a mouse. So when we talk about the computer age, some people think that we're at the end of the line. This must be the end. No, it's the beginning. We know from documents accidentally released that the CIA is concerned about the fact that the next generation of computers will be quantum. They can break any digital code, including the national treasury of nations. Sooner or later, we're going to hit the end of Moore's Law because we're going to be computing on atoms.
So everything we have achieved so far is only the beginning, right?
This interview was made possible through our collaboration with Global Speakers Bureau.
Isn't the first time in the history when we are creating technology that fundamentally replaced human being?
That's been the sweep of history, that every time a new technology comes along, people say, uh-oh, that's the end. It means unemployment, it means people out of work, but then a new set of jobs come in. Now, of course, no one can predict the future accurately, but it is my firm belief that there's a new wave of innovation, a new wave of jobs, a new wave of interacting with machines that's coming around the corner. And that people will have to adjust to the fact that, yes, we have robots, yes, we have machines, but they in turn have to have supervision. They in turn have to be repaired. They in turn have to have new waves of innovation. And new sets of jobs are going to open up. In one corporation that I read about, initially, yes, jobs were affected, people were laid off, but then you had to have people monitor the robots. You have people repair them, design new layers of robots, supervise them. And as a consequence, more jobs were hired as a consequence. So when everything was said and done, the net gain was positive, not negative. And so I think people are only looking at the first phase of this revolution. They see the coming wave of unemployment and they say, that's forever. I don't think so. With innovation comes new supervisions, new jobs, new opportunities, and I think we're just beginning to see that now.
Pracuj has become a partner of Bison Fellowship, a program for Central Europe's brightest young scientific talent.
That's been the march of history for centuries, that people had a certain kind of vocation. They dealt with horses, they dealt with buggies, they dealt with Model Ts, but then unemployment came along. People said, we're moving too fast. We got to go back. And then a new kind of jobs came in. And so we have to realize that this is a pattern. And we can't be stopped by pessimism because the next new wave of innovation, the next wave of job creation is, I think, around the corner.
You're optimistic.
Optimistic because if you look at the march of history, that's always been the way it's been. Take a look at the horse. We had the horse for so many years, a very reliable means of transportation, but then the automobile came, and we thought, uh-oh, that changes everything. Well, yes, it changed everything for the better.
But you know, horse has just only one task, but agentic AI is multitasking.
We have to realize that robots can only do certain tasks well. Other tasks they cannot do. Things that are repetitive, that's what robots excel at. But jobs that are creative, no. Jobs that require innovation, that require leadership, that require understanding human behavior, robots can't do that. Take a look at a classroom, for example. It's sometimes said that all elementary school teachers are going to get fired. Robots will teach children. That's the way education is going to be. It's going to all be done by robots. But then think about it. Each child is different. Each child requires different kinds of mentoring, different kinds of nurturing. Realize that children aren't just machines that absorb knowledge from above. No, they have problems. social problems, problems with divorced parents, problems with rivalry with their friends, none of which can be assuaged by robots. Robots are repetitive. We forget that. Repetitive, they do the same thing over and over again. But if you have a problem child, a child whose parents are getting divorced, a child that has friction with other children that beat up on them, robots can't handle that. So what I'm saying is, we're going to have a new generation of robots in the future to handle problems that humans face. And so I think it's premature to saying that it's all over.
A few months ago, I spoke with Jeffrey Hinton, Nobel Prize winner, who said the humans will be the second, not the first intelligence on Earth. Do you agree with him?
The question is, what is intelligence? Is intelligence simply regurgitating what's been programmed into you? Or does intelligence imply being creative, innovative, looking at things that no one's ever looked at before, creating things that have never been created before? And you realize that robots are very good at doing things that are programmed into them. They can read the encyclopedia much better than us because they can access the entire encyclopedia, and we cannot. But it's repetitive. It's not something creative. So already on the planet Earth, we have something, an entity, that is more powerful than humans in terms of understanding information that is pre-programmed. We already have robots. We can already put the Britannica into their memory. They already exist. But they're not creative. They're not innovative. They don't have a will of their own. When that happens, who knows when, then they become, in some sense, more adaptable than us humans at that point. At that point, that's why I say, instead of fighting them, we should merge with them. Become as powerful as them. Become superhuman. That is a possibility, and we see the beginnings of it now. We're beginning to understand how humans can have their powers augmented in the future. So the future of medicine is not healing. The future of medicine is enhancement. Why not fight the superhumans? Why not become superhuman?
Has the rapid development of AI changed your view of where humanity stands on the Kardashev scale?
Well, if you take a look at Moore's Law says that computer power doubles every 18 months. And that's held since World War II. In fact, even before World War II, when you have mechanical computers, computer power doubled roughly every 18 months. That's slowing down now. For the first time in history, we realize that computers are not becoming more powerful, twice as powerful every 18 months. So digital computers, we think, are gradually beginning to reach the end of the line. What's next? What's next could be quantum. Quantum computers exist. It's not science fiction. They exist in Silicon Valley, also in China. A few other countries are building prototypes of quantum computers. Now, at the present time, they're rather primitive. Not 1 billion cells, maybe 100. 100 brain cells in a quantum computer. But eventually, they'll be able to become so powerful, they will be as powerful as the computers of Mother Nature. Mother Nature is a quantum computer, many times more powerful than a digital computer. And there's also a danger with respect to that fact. Quantum computers are so powerful that they can break any digital code, including your bank account, including the national treasury of nations, including your cell phone. That's how powerful they are. Now, who's worried about that? The CIA. We know from documents accidentally released that the CIA is concerned about the fact that the next generation of computers will be quantum, which is what Mother Nature is all about. Mother Nature, in some sense, is a gigantic quantum computer. And with that, the ability to break into any digital code. Watch out. It's not yet happening, but we do have quantum computers, not with billions of neurons, maybe 100 cells, qubits as they're called. We already have them. But one day, we'll have a quantum computer with perhaps millions of qubits, and at that point, watch out. We will probably attain type 1 status within 100 years. And I say that because of energy. When you look at the production of energy, you realize that it's exponential, growing at the rate of a few percent per year. And at some point, this energy will be global. We'll be able to access the energy of the entire planet Earth, probably within 100 years. And at that point, we are by definition type 1. A type 1 civilization is a civilization that has reached that level of energy, being able to control energy. Type 2 is when they begin to control the planet, the energy of an entire planet. Type 3 is when they begin to control the energy of a galaxy. And we can compute numerically when this may happen. Now, this, of course, is science fiction, but growing at the rate of, let's say, 3% per year, our energy output will gradually become planetary in about 100 years. Growing at that same rate, an exponential rate of 3%, will gradually become stellar, will gradually begin to become type 2 and control the energy of a star. That will take a few thousand years. Then who knows? After that, growing exponentially, we'll be able to exhaust not just the power of a star, but a galaxy with 100 billion stars. And that time frame is again going to be exponential, and that may take, who knows, maybe 100,000 years. Now, all of this, of course, is speculation, but it's speculation based on the past, that we humans will become a type 1 civilization unless we blow ourselves apart in about 100 years, growing at the exponential rate of today. Everything around us is growing exponentially, including energy. And energy is one indicator of the advancement of a civilization. And we will become type 1 perhaps in this century. There's a loophole in this scenario, and that is the fact that even though technology can grow exponentially, human nature does not. Human nature, in some sense, is hardwired into our brain. We learn painfully how to deal with other people, how to share, how to exchange knowledge and resources. We learn that from scratch, from zero, not from the past, but from zero. And so it'll take time, while the growth of morality is linear. It's not exponential. And that's the reason why our machines outpace our ability to control them. And that's why we have to always inculcate in the next generation and train them from books how to become civilized, how to share knowledge, rather than use knowledge for power and gain.
Is the end of Moore's law the beginning of the quantum age?
Moore's law is coming to an end. Digital computers, we can see the end. Digital computers right now are so powerful, we can put 1 million of them on your fingertip. On your thumbnail, you can put 1 million cells, each cell being a digital neuron, and that powers your laptop. But that can't last forever. Sooner or later, we're going to hit the end of Moore's law because we're going to be computing on atoms. When we start to compute on atoms, we have the uncertainty principle. You don't know exactly where or what state the neuron or the atom is in. Heisenberg uncertainty principle takes over. And that's where the quantum principle comes in. The quantum principle depends upon the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. So in other words, in the future, you ask a quantum computer, what is 2 plus 2? And the quantum computer will say, usually it's 4. Since World War II, or since the beginning of the digital age, Yes, computer power doubled every 18 months, but those days are coming to a close. The smallest transistor you can make is roughly 20, 50 atoms across, approximately. So when a transistor module becomes 20 to 50 atoms across, errors begin to build up. At some point, the transistor is going to be a few atoms across. At that point, Moore's law falls apart completely. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle kicks in. Quantum mechanics now rules the roost, and you don't know exactly if 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. That's the way the quantum world is. The quantum world depends upon probabilities, not actualities.
What makes quantum computers so important?
Quantum computers, in some sense, are the future for good and bad. The bad side of quantum computers is they are powerful enough in principle to break into any digital code. Your bank account, your life savings, the wealth of nations, the national treasury, all of them can be broken into because they're all digitized. How do we set a computer code? We look at all possible digital numbers, but that's finite. The number of digital codes you can make is a finite number given the state of a quantum computer. Therefore, you can break into it. A quantum computer is quantum mechanical. Things are probabilistic. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle comes in. And so it's much more difficult to break into a quantum computer. So who's worried? Everybody. The FBI, the CIA, they're all looking at Plan B. Plan A is do nothing and let somebody break into your code and steal from the national treasury. Plan B is to find some defense mechanism, which we don't yet have, to stop criminals from breaking into a quantum computer. That's the downside. Now, what is the plus side? The plus side is Mother Nature is a quantum computer. Life, the forests, the trees, the animals, they're not digital at all. Where do you find a digital computer inside an ant? They're all quantum mechanical. And that's where life comes from. Also, disease, like cancer, Parkinson's, we'll be able to find the cure for diseases. How do we find the cure for many diseases today? By hit or miss. You flip a coin, you get all these petri dishes, put samples of the chemical of the disease in them, and cross your fingers. This is how medicine is done. It's a crapshoot because we don't understand the mechanism of cancer. Who understands exactly how cancers are formed? We don't know. That's where quantum computers come in. Quantum computers operate at the atomic level. That's where cancer operates, disease operate, the aging process. All of them take place at the atomic level, far beyond the capabilities of an ordinary digital computer. That's where quantum computers comes in. We may be able to form new chemicals, new fabrics, be able to form new materials, and cure diseases that are incurable today.
Are banks or governments ready for the quantum tree?
Are governments ready for the quantum revolution? And the answer is no. First of all, everyone's working on it. But you see, the nation that first creates an operational quantum computer, are they going to advertise it? Are they going to have a press release and say, we did it, a workable quantum computer? No, they're going to keep it a secret. Why? Because they're going to rob the banks of the world in secret. And so we don't really know exactly how powerful foreigners have been able to make quantum computers. We just know they're working on it. But the nation that creates the first workable quantum computer will simply break the bank and not tell anyone.
Why do quantum computers need temperature close to absolute zero?
The problem with quantum computers is the question of temperature. They have to be cooled down to near absolute zero, where molecular mistakes cannot creep in. You see, at room temperature, atoms jiggle left and right, and therefore mistakes can build up. Quantum computers eliminate these mistakes by freezing the process to near absolute zero, and that's where computations are made, and that's why quantum computers are huge. On a cell phone, you could put everything in something this big in your cell phone. A quantum computer is about the size of the room. We're talking about layer upon layer of liquid helium, different kinds of very cold substances to bring the temperature down to near absolute zero. And that's why quantum computers are so clumsy at the present time. Now, once in a while in the newspapers, you realize that a quantum computer beat a digital computer by factors of millions of times. Yes, that's true. But what kind of problem did the quantum computer solve? A trivial problem, a nonsensical problem, not a practical problem at all. So don't believe the headlines which say that quantum computers have been shown to be millions of times faster than a digital computer. Yes, for a silly problem. For a general all-purpose problems, we're not there yet.
But I still don't understand, because everything in our body is made of atoms governed by quantum mechanics. And this all works at room temperature. So why we need for quantum computers absolute zero temperature?
One word, error. At room temperature, there's lots of mistakes that could be made. At near absolute zero, molecular motion comes to a near halt. And therefore, you can do calculations without mistakes building up. Errors build up because atoms vibrate. When atoms vibrate at room temperature, you make lots of mistakes. When atoms vibrate at near absolute zero, they make fewer mistakes. And that's why quantum computers are so awkward. They're so big. You've seen this on the news sometimes. They show pictures of these things. The quantum computer is not this gigantic vat that you see on television. The quantum computer is only this big. It's only this big that does the computation. So why is the quantum computer so big? It's the cooling pipes. The cooling pipes have to bring you down to lab zero, layer after layer after layer, to bring you down from room temperature all the way down to your absolute zero, where the computation takes place in a little box about this big. Now, how does Mother Nature do it? We're not sure. But Mother Nature does do these calculations so fast, so quick, there's no time for errors to build up. So Mother Nature has solved that problem. Do calculations as fast as possible. You don't have to worry about the jiggling of room temperature atoms. But we're not there yet. Mother Nature is still a few steps ahead of us. Sorry about that.
So many scientists think that AI is more dangerous than nukes.
Well, when you take a look at the threats to society, nuclear weapons, of course, are at the top of the list. Also, germs, designer germs, are at the top of the list, but also potentially robots. Now, robots today have the collective intelligence of a creative monkey, or worse, a mouse. Yes, they can do certain things better than any human, but they're not creative, they're not innovative, they can't become leaders of people because they don't understand human behavior, human desires. They can't be leaders of humans, for example. And for all these reasons, robots are still machines. Now, that doesn't mean that robots can't learn. That doesn't mean that one day robots can learn to become a school teacher, learn to become a fireman, learn to do tasks that today involve creativity, imagination. Robots can't do those things. But yes, in principle, it's possible that robots can do these things, but not soon. Maybe in 100 years, I don't know, but maybe in 100 years, robots will be able to understand human behavior, understand new forms of crisis, new forms of danger that humans cannot foresee, but we're not there yet.
Are we creating new digital species with AI?
Is it possible that one day robots can separate from humanity, become an entirely new species, divorced from us? And the answer is yes. In science fiction, we all look at that possibility. I personally think that it is still perhaps hundreds of years into the future, and robots become totally creative. They can take over leadership tasks, be innovative, creative. I think we're far from that, but is it possible? Yes. Because in some sense, we are robots. If you want to look at a robot, look at a mirror. We are mechanical, except we're not mechanical made out of steel and rubber and glass. We're mechanical made out of organic cells, molecules. But in some sense, molecule for molecule, are we that different from the machines? No, we have mechanical parts, we have diodes, we have molecules that perform electrical tasks, but we're creative, we're innovative. Now, eventually, they will become as smart as us. At that point, this is now centuries in the future, my point of view is we should merge with them. We've been trying to augment ourselves since we first left the forest. We discovered makeup. We discovered tools, things to enhance ourselves. And the next thing to enhance ourselves will be intelligence. Not just makeup, not just mechanical arms and swords and things like that, but intelligence. We'll be able to either add intelligence to the human brain, become smarter, or perhaps, in some sense, become robots ourselves, human robots, by merging with them. Now, this, of course, is science fiction, but when you talk a few hundred years into the future, that becomes a possibility to merge with our creations. Instead of fighting them, merge with them, become superhuman. One day we may be able to explore Mars, the outer planets, by simply shooting ourselves into outer space, becoming supermen and superwomen.
You think so?
This is a dream. This, of course, means that there are a lot of detours on the way to that. But one option is to stop fighting our creations and merge with them.
Last time you told us the robots do not have free will because they are deterministic, I remember. But today's AI systems often surprise even their creators.
Robots are surprising. They can do things that we didn't think they were capable of. You ask them to write a biography of Mark Twain, how many people can do that? You get 1,000 people, give them a sheet of paper, and ask them to write a biography of Mark Twain. How many can do that? One robot can do what thousands of humans cannot do. But that lesson is, it was pre-programmed. It was already in their memory. All they did was access a memory written by some other human. They're not creative, they're not innovative, but they're imitative. And they can imitate far better than a human. So when you see a robot that can imitate better than a human, we think they are alive. We think that they're human. They're superhuman because they can access information.
They can think, they can learn, they understand. Maybe they are.
So we think they're superhuman, but all they're doing is accessing what's already in their memory. They're not creative. They're not innovative. They're not doing anything new. They're simply accessing the memory circuits built into their brain.
Mr. Kaku, but if a machine can think, can speak, can learn, and understand its place in the world, is it still just a machine? Maybe no, this is a new form of life that works another way. They use another way. That new form of life, it's, something different than humans, but maybe this is new form of life.
I don't think so, because I think life itself is mechanical. Now, mechanical not in the sense of gears, levers, and pulleys. I mean mechanical in the sense of DNA, molecules, tissue, in that sense. So in other words, in some sense, we are robots. We're simply creating robots that are more primitive than us, but one day will be comparable to what we can perform. The difference being is that the robots of today are digital, they are mechanical, they're simply repetitive, they simply do what they're told to do. They access information that we programmed into them to begin with. They're not creative. We're more creative, we're more innovative, but sooner or later, robots will begin to make innovative new discoveries as well. Because as I said, in some sense, we are robots. Except we're not made out of machines, we're not made out of steel, levers, and pulleys. We're made out of tissue and DNA. But the basic architecture is not so different. So that's why I'm saying that I don't fear the robots as they become more intelligent. We just have to make sure that they're intelligent and peaceful. There's a movie which brings out some aspects of what I just talked about. In the movie, The Matrix, if you want to learn to become a karate master, you simply put a chip into your brain and bingo, you are now a karate master. And so, in other words, enhancement. Now look at the march of science and medicine. The march of science and medicine has been to cure disease, to alleviate suffering. That's today. In the future, it'll be enhancement. Not just to cure disease, but to enhance our properties. Now, we've been doing enhancement for generations. Makeup, trying to build our muscles up at the gym. We've tried to do this for a long time unsuccessfully. In the future, we'll simply be able to plug in circuits so that we can learn karate. We can learn how to waltz, dance, learn mathematics by simply implanting it into our brain directly. And so in the future, perhaps we will become, in some sense, like the robots.
Professor Richard Feynman believed the real technology revolution would begin when we could manipulate matter by atoms, right?
Richard Feynman, Nobel laureate, was one of the first scientists to speculate about the next generation beyond digital computers. He was frustrated by the fact that digital computers are quick, they're fast, they're versatile, but they're digital. And as a consequence, they're limited by the speed of electricity. And as a consequence, there are limits to what a digital computer can do. That's not the quantum world. In the quantum world, atoms calculate through many, many paths simultaneously, not just one path at a time, but simultaneously through trillions of possible paths. Why? Because electrons are waves. They're not really like billiard balls at all. A billiard ball, you exactly know where it is. It goes from A to B to C. That's it. You know exactly where the billiard ball is, and that's why it takes so long to go through all the paths of a crossword puzzle. In quantum mechanics, the electron is a wave. It has wave-like properties, and these waves spread instantaneously throughout the crossword puzzle. Instantaneously. That's why quantum computers are so powerful compared to digital computers. Digital computers are like billiard balls in a crossword puzzle. Quantum computers are like the ocean, doing trillions of calculations simultaneously with the waves. And that's why quantum computers are the future. Mother Nature, in some sense, is a quantum computer.
So everything we have achieved so far is only the beginning, right?
So when we talk about the computer age, some people think that we're at the end of the line. Computers are so powerful, this must be the end. No, it's the beginning. Because that's how Mother Nature operates. Mother Nature is not digital. Let me say that again. Mother Nature is not digital. Mother Nature is quantum. Digital computes one by one. Quantum computes all paths simultaneously. And in one sentence, you now understand the future.
Would all these quantum achievements, AI achievements, make us closer to answer the questions about God?
The question that a lot of people ask is, all this information, this flood of knowledge, does it bring us closer to understanding God? Well, I think it depends on how you define God. If you define God the way most people define God, the God through the Bible, the God of vengeance, the God that smites the Philistines, that kind of God, then many scientists would say no. Einstein was asked that question. He said, well, there's the God of vengeance, there's the God of revenge, there's the God of the Old Testament, there's that God. He didn't believe in that God. He believed in the God of knowledge, the God of imagination, the God of creation, rather than the God of destruction. Because look at the world around us. All these laws, all these things that have yet to be discovered. We are children trying to understand the barest understanding of matter and energy. We still don't know where the world came from. We still don't know where it's all going. We still don't know any of these things. And that's where Einstein thought God was. So it's not the God of vengeance. It's not the God of the Old Testament. It's the God of knowledge. It's the God that created the universe.
How do you define your God?
Well, I define God the way Einstein tried to grapple with that same question. He considered himself to be a young child in a library, a huge library of books. And he said that he's like a child that can take the first volume and read the first page. Yet before him was this library of knowledge. And that's why we are here today. So for those people who create gods, they create gods in their own image, not in the image of what's out there in this universe, but they create the God of vengeance, the God of revenge. Why is there injustice in the world? Because they're evil people. And what do we do with evil people? We put them away. No, not that God. The God of harmony, beauty, simplicity, that's the God that Einstein believed in.
God of questions?
Yes, the ultimate questions, but we are children in a library asking the question, what's in the first page of this book?
In our last conversation, you said you don't believe in the simulation theory. Have anything changed?
No, there's something called the simulation theory where everything is, in some sense, a puppet. We are puppets being engineered by the puppet master. And we're simply moving our parts, thinking that we have free will, thinking that, yes, I am the master of my destiny, when it's all nothing but a puppet master that is pulling the strings. I don't believe in that. First of all, I believe in quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics deals in probabilities, the uncertainties. We don't like that. We like things to be certain. We like there to be a puppet master that tells us what to do, that gives us the answers, and we simply mouth the answers that are pre-programmed into us. No, the world is more complex than that. There's uncertainty in the world. You cannot predict the future. You can predict alternate futures, but you cannot predict the future a second from now. That's the way the world is. So I do not believe that there's a puppet master that guides all our motions. That would mean determinism. That would mean that everything is determined ahead of time, that in the beginning of time, everything was written. It was written that we would be in this room today having this conversation. It was written in a book that we would be talking about predestination. No, I don't believe in that. I believe in chance, uncertainty. I believe in the quantum principle, which says, in some sense, the universe is a crapshoot. And the key to the crapshoot is to make it and to have it conform to your wishes. The future is not written. So why not try to write the world in your image, not the image of some comic book.
But quantum computers can simulate almost everything.
Only uncertainties. Quantum computers cannot simulate certainty. Quantum computers only simulate probabilities. What is 2 plus 2? A quantum computer would say, well, I think it's 4, mainly 4, but I'm not certain. That's the quantum world. The world is a crapshoot. The world is what you make it. The world is not written. There's no Bible that says this is how the world operates forever. That's why I don't believe that we are puppets being moved by a puppet master. There is uncertainty. In other words, there is free will.
But if quantum computers can simulate almost everything, why should we dismiss the possibility that our own universe is the result of, a quantum simulation created by far more advanced civilizations?
The key word is probability. In other words, what's the probability that you'll wake up on Mars tomorrow? Well, it's very small, but it's there. There's a certain finite probability that you can calculate using the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, the fact that you'll wake up on Mars tomorrow. But the chance of that happening is astronomically small. And that's the key to the whole puzzle. The world is a crapshoot. Certain things are more likely than others. It's more than likely that you will wake up today and go to work. High probability. A very low probability that you will wake up today and go to Mars. A very small probability, but it's a crapshoot. It's crapshoot where there is, I think, free will. That yes, you can predict many forms of human behaviors, but you cannot predict it with absolute certainty. In other words, the world could be what you make it. So the world is, in some sense, more than just a random crapshoot. It's a crapshoot where you can help to roll the dice.
Maybe free will doesn't exist. Maybe we are only biological machines.
Well, we are biological machines, but even biological machines have mistakes, have errors, and deviate from plan. And so even though you can say that chances are my body will do this and this and this, it'll get hungry. It'll get hungry in a while. I'm going to go out and have lunch. With high certainty, you can say that's true. But then you say, aha, that means you're programmed. You are programmed to be hungry. It's all written. It is written that you will become hungry. Well, yes, but that's consistent with free will. You choose to do something about it. Nature says you're hungry. Your brain says, let me do something about it.
Pracuj has become a partner of Bison Fellowship, a program for Central Europe's brightest young scientific talent. This interview was made possible through our collaboration with Global Speakers Bureau.